First off, this is my first post on Reddit, and I'm not the best writer, so bear with me. Let me explain the context before I get into what happened this morning. I live by myself in an apartment, but most nights my best friend or boyfriend will spend the night, so I'm rarely ever here alone overnight. It isn't exactly high security, but it is very difficult to break in. You need a key to get into the front door, to use the elevator, or open the door to the stairwell, to get into the front door of my apartment, and another programmed hotel-like key to get into my bedroom. If someone programs a new key, the old one deactivates. So say I lose my key and get a new one, the old one wouldn't work. This is all to say, it would be very difficult to break in. The only other way would be to scale a 14th-floor apartment tower and climb through the window. I sleep with an app called Sleep as Android. It has many interesting features. One of them records audio while you sleep, so if you sleep talk, you can replay it in the morning and hear what you said. It also takes the loudest snippet of the recording and replays it as the alarm tone. I don't sleep talk, so I never turned on that setting. I wore a leotard and shorts on Wednesday. I wasn't facing her, but Lindsay came up to me and asked about the scratch down my back. I turned to the mirror and looked over my shoulder. It looked like a long scratch from between my shoulder blades down to my lower back. It wasn't particularly deep. It didn't hurt. I didn't notice until she pointed it out. But it was definitely there, and fresh. It hadn't completely scabbed yet. I keep hearing these things in my apartment and it sounds like someone is walking around. But I don't have a roommate. No one has a spare key because my key still works, and it's honestly quite drafty up here. If I sneeze in my room, a cabinet in the bathroom may creak open. It's not in the sturdiest shape. I went out to a party with my two best friends and boyfriend on St. Patrick's Day. We were pretty drunk, so when the BF and I got back, we passed out almost immediately. He is a heavier sleeper than I, so he remained asleep as I woke up to a very weird sound. It was one of those moments where a distinct sensory event creates enough confusion to pull you into consciousness. This sensory event was a sound. It was a human speaking, preceding a creak, shuffle, and click. It didn't really make any sense as to why my alarm was telling me I am crap at seeing things. I sat up and tried to listen closely. I felt a sharp drop in the pit of my stomach and a tingle in my spine.
Shit, he's here.
And the sound of a door closing. It was not my boyfriend's voice. Too gravelly. It was not my voice. It was male. I didn't know what to make out of it, so I turned the alarm off and laid awake for a while. I noticed a bruise on my hip the other day when I rolled over to get out of bed. I don't understand how I got it. I have a memory foam mattress pad. It's not like the springs are hard enough to cause it. I highly doubt that I got into a fight while sleeping, but I checked the motion track on my alarm app. According to that, there was normal sleep activity the previous night. Relative stillness and little moments of slight movement. I slept alone in the apartment last night. I woke up this morning to another weird sound on the alarm. It was two voices, and one interrupted the other. After the interruption, I can hear what sounded like my own sleepy moan and the rustling of sheets.
I want to. Shut up, not yet. She's...
And then it repeats. I don't have some interesting conclusion for this, and I don't know what details are relevant of the weird experiences I've had in my apartment the last few weeks. Maybe I'm being paranoid. Maybe it's the wind. Who knows? If anything else happens, I will update. I'm a fairly heavy sleeper. It usually takes someone actually shaking me to wake me up. Last night, I woke up for apparently no reason. Groggy and upset. I was awake. I looked at my phone to see how much time I had left to sleep before I had to get up to get ready for work. I've burned a lot of bridges in my lifetime, and it hurts me to say it, but I don't really have any friends other than my brother and my best friend who lives with me. When I looked at my phone to check the time, I noticed I had a missed call from a number not saved in my phone. They left a voicemail. The time on the voicemail was 38 minutes after midnight. Odd, I thought. Usually, my drunk, desperate acquaintances don't call me for a ride until after the bars close at 2:30 in the morning. Opening the voicemail, I hear a female voice I immediately recognize as an ex-girlfriend from several years ago. She's crying. The best I can translate through the sobs is, "Please call me. I'm going to do something bad. I can't take it anymore. The pain is too much." After that, I can hear her trying to talk, but I can't understand what she's saying. I work as a 911 dispatcher, and I usually have to talk someone off the edge of suicide at least once per night. But it is usually someone I don't know, and I don't know why, but not knowing a person somehow makes this easier. I knew I had the skills to save her life. I called her back, and for the first 5 minutes or so, I couldn't even understand her. Finally, I had her calm down enough that I could understand her, and she was able to hear what I had to say. She had gotten fired and went home to her boyfriend upset and looking for support. He hit her and then threw her against a wall and screamed at her for screwing up again. She told me she was on her way to go to see snow one last time before she ended it. She told me she was going to Silent Rock to die. I talked to her the 45 minutes or so it took me to drive to Silent Rock. I got her calmed down, and I made her agree she wouldn't kill herself until she talked to me, and then still didn't have a reason to live. When I got there, she was shivering in the cold and still crying. I've never seen anyone or anything so happy to see another human. I put her in my car and looked around for her car, but it was nowhere to be seen. I still have no idea how she got to a place so far from her house. She was silent the whole drive home. When we got to my house, I grabbed her a blanket and a pillow and laid them on the couch. She hugged me and thanked me for saving her life. I put That 70s Show, a show I remember her loving from when we dated. Once she drifted off to sleep, I sat there for another hour making sure she was actually out. I went to my room and went to sleep. I woke up the next day, and the blanket I'd laid out for her was folded and the pillow was on top. She was gone. Probably to go repair the damage that she had done the night before. I went to work. When I got off work, I called her to see how she was faring and to make sure she was still stable. A male voice I didn't recognize answered the phone.
Hello?
I replied. "Hey, I'm worried about Sabrina. She had a rough night and I'm just checking in on her." I'll never forget the response I got.
Is this some horrible joke? What asshole thinks it's funny to torment a father who's lost a child a month after he's lost his baby?
The line disconnected. I pulled up the phone number in my phone to call her back and noticed I had a missed call from her exactly 1 month prior. I don't know what exactly happened that night, but I visited her grave today, and I still don't believe it. Please don't sleep with your phone on silent. You might miss the most important call of your life.
I've been one with the ocean most of my life, buying my first sailboat at the age of 20 and sailing the oceans around the west coast. It's an easy life actually. I don't pay mortgage and I wake up every morning to the ocean 5 feet away from me. The reason I am reaching out to Nosleep is because recently I found a boat off the coast of Mexico. A small fishing boat, most likely used to catch yellowtail. A big fish out in the part, and I can't explain what was on it. It was earlier in the morning fog just lifting off the surface and my vision was farther than before. The waves were more choppy than usual. Little waves slapping against the sides of the vessel. I saw a boat in the distance. Not an unusual sight, but caught me off guard because of the size of it. This far out, you don't see many fishing boats, only larger sailboats and cargo ships, running their many routes. The more unusual part was they weren't showing up on my radar. Maybe just not up to date on technology, I thought to myself. I set my course a little off my path to avoid disturbing whoever may be on the boat. A good idea now that I look back. As I got closer, I noticed how beat up this boat looked. The paint was chipping away, revealing just a bit of color. Probably from all the salt. Next, all the windows on the cabin were broken. I decided I should figure out what happened. Bad idea. I tied a knot to my safety line and jumped onto the vessel, also tying a knot on the rail of that, as well so my boat doesn't float away while I'm exploring. The deck creaked as I shifted my weight onto the boat. I would have to do this quick. This boat definitely didn't have anyone on it, and who knows how long the deck had before collapsing in. I descended into a lower part of the ship. Step by step as I moved down, the smell of death became more apparent, and I could now see some of the lower parts of the boat. I didn't expect to see what I did. Down below the deck, a man lay, clearly dead, a pool of old dried blood around him, clearly from a long time ago. I looked around more, revealing a horrifying scene. A gun not far from where he was lying, and other objects I couldn't make out not far from him either. As I made my way above the deck, I heard a noise downstairs. Something was moving down there, and now I could hear footsteps. So I hurried my pace, getting nervous. I pretty much ran to the edge of the boat. My hands were shaking so bad, the knot could hardly come undone. But at last I finally got it. I jumped in my boat and ran to start the engine, just as I heard whoever was on the boat making its way up the stairs. As I hurried out of there, I looked back and noticed a silhouette of the boat. Not looking in a particular way, but I could feel it searching for me. Even hundreds of yards away, I hurried into the cabin of my boat to get my binoculars out and held them to my face. I don't know that was a human on that boat. It was too tall to be one, and walked awkwardly around the boat, still searching for what disturbed it. After that, my memory goes fuzzy, although I do remember waking up and my watch saying it was 3 hours after I initially saw the boat, even though I could have only been on it for 2 minutes tops. That night I sailed into Mexico, and am now sitting at an internet cafe with mediocre at best reception. Now I can't get an aching headache out of my head, and a few fishermen next to me were speaking about a boat offshore like the one I saw. If you come across a boat in the middle of the Pacific, please don't go on it or near it. I used to live with my boyfriend Todd at the time. I was still studying college at the time when he became a full-time drug dealer. I always thought that maybe I could change his ways. Time and time again, I failed, and he kept his ways. One night, while I was sleeping over at his place, I heard some kind of muffled sound coming from the basement. It was a bungalow, so we could easily hear something from outside or downstairs. I tried not to think about it too much, so I tried to ignore it and fall asleep. I didn't want to wake up my boyfriend at that time, because it was probably nothing anyways. Being a heavy sleeper, he slept through it the entire time. Needless to say, I didn't get much sleep that night. Luckily, the next day, I was going back to my place. Days passed until my next visit. When I got there, I looked straight at him and asked him if he heard anything in the basement. He looked at me confused and said, "No, nothing. Why?" I believed him and told him that there were strange noises coming from the basement. Of course, he replied with, "It's probably nothing." On the same night, I heard it again. I felt like an evil presence was surrounding us. This dark feeling of anger and betrayal. I could not hear what it was saying last time, but this time it was as clear as day.
Todd.
It screamed in a devilish voice. I panicked and woke up Todd. He got up and asked me what the hell was going on. Then that eerie feeling erupted, and it honestly felt like my life was on the line. I told him that there was someone looking for him, but when he asked me where, I had no idea what to tell him. It felt like it came from every direction of the house. I started sobbing and telling him that I'm going home. He begged and pleaded for me to stay, but I couldn't take it. I got up and left the premise. Weeks went by when I finally decided to go back to his place. I wasn't happy about it, and I felt the same feeling as I did before. We went to bed earlier than usual. Yet again, I woke up to this strange feeling. But this time, it felt as if it had taken over me. I couldn't control my body. It felt like straight out of a movie. I couldn't move, yet my body was moving on its own. I got up, walked over to the phone, dialed someone, mumbled some things, and laid back down. Next thing I knew, it was morning. The cops had showed up at his place. I saw as the police took Todd into custody, and needless to say, I was interrogated. They brought me into a room, and it was my first time being in there. I was nervous, sweating like I had just finished a marathon. But for some reason, the sergeant told me that I had nothing to be afraid of, and thanked me for giving them a tip of who abducted and ultimately murdered a small-time drug dealer named Joseph. I was completely and utterly confused, but I kept my mouth shut. They told me that I had called the cops during the night and told them to trace the phone. At first, they were unsure if I was telling the truth because Joseph had been missing for almost 2 months. When they went over to investigate, they found Joseph's body in the basement, tortured to a pulp. Apparently they knew each other and were constantly in each other's turf. Ever since then, I have lost touch with Todd. I didn't want Todd to know that I had somehow snitched on him. Looking back and piecing together everything, I now know that the noises I heard from the basement were from Joseph, and it was ultimately Joseph's spirit that called the cops.
What I'm writing about happened around last week. I was laying in bed after watching TV for several hours, browsing through my social media. Being the social outcast I am, I enjoy creepy and unsettling things. Whether it be a story, or a picture, I love the creepy stuff. As I was looking through Instagram, I came across a picture of a dog with his mouth open. Nothing bad or creepy about it, which surprised me. The page I was on specified in the horror aspect of the imagination. When I clicked on the picture to see if the owner of said page had tagged anyone in the photo, I was shocked. The tag simply said "you" and was placed directly over the dog's mouth. I checked below the picture to see if there was any caption explaining the reason to this post, but there was none. At first this hit me hard. I've seen many horrific pictures, but this was just eye-opening to me. After some contemplating, I shrugged it off and went to sleep around 10:30 p.m. I'm a heavy sleeper, and I lucid dream almost every night, so nightmares never really happen to me. But I distinctly remember looking at my digital clock one night after being woken up somehow. The red numbers burned themselves into my retinas. 3:33 a.m. I thought nothing of this as I let my head sink back into my mountain of pillows, but I couldn't fall asleep. No matter what I did, I couldn't even begin to doze off. I decided to lay there with my eyes closed until I would fall asleep again, but the sound I heard kept me awake for hours. A low snarl emitting from my kitchen. I jolted up and stared at my door. I never owned a pet before, not even a goldfish. I'm too irresponsible, and I'll end up feeling bad if I let something die. In a split second, I reach over and flick my lamp on without breaking eye contact with the entrance to my room. Nothing. The light didn't come on, it didn't flicker, and it wasn't unplugged. I thought it was a brief power outage, but I checked my clock once more and saw the same horrific numbers illuminated in red. 3:33 a.m. There was no way, I thought. I was laying here for at least 20 minutes since I checked the clock last. Unless the clock, my racing mind was interrupted with a loud bark. Now I was getting freaked out. The way the thing barked wasn't your average poodle or something. This was something mean and big. Whatever it was mad and close. I thought I could be brave and push my door open more, to try and see what the hell was making those ungodly sounds. So I climbed out of the safety of my bed and pushed the door open. As soon as I did, there was no sound, pure silence. Relieved, I sighed and shut my door. When I was about to turn around, the same gravely hellish growl filled the air once more. This time it was behind me. Without thinking, I whirled around to see my desk lamp on and my digital clock displaying the time as 3:34 a.m. Sometimes in my dreams, I'll hear that growl even so often. But with my lucidity, I can't tell if it's real or in my dreams.